Hi, everyone. I had an epiphany that was really profound in nature recently, and it's something that's been building up over the course of decades. And it happened while I was researching for an interview with a man named Jose Maria Barrera on his book about the Dendera temple in Egypt. And long ago, 2 or 3 decades ago, my soul group told me if people could begin to understand the Egyptian hieroglyphics and glyphs as they were actually meant to be, we would understand our future. They said, in a sense, that it takes humanity back to our future. I think they were trying to make a little funny there, relating to the movie from way back when. In any event, I sat with that and I thought, okay. And I've had a couple of experiences you can hear it in other podcasts or sometimes on my interviews. Maybe I'll share it later, where massive amount of hieroglyphics were downloaded into my aura when I was in a temple. Actually, it was a cave temple in Israel many years ago, and I didn't understand why that was happening, and it all finally came together. And what it comes down to is this: it all boils down to one thing. And the means of dealing with the one thing are all embedded in true color, perfectly preserved in the temple of Dendera. So what originally happened is I was going through the book, preparing my notes to write up my script for the interview on Gaia with Jose. And a funny feeling came about me, and I know what that means. And the funny feeling kept coming and coming. And so it was coming down into my head, and I realized that what I was looking at and perceiving, I was being told by, whether it's a collective of my higher self and my soul group, I can't even tell anymore. It all feels the same, honestly. But came down basically saying, this is correct. What I was looking at, which has impacted us for thousands of years now, was all of these glyphs in which the book said, and here you'll see that Thoth is worshiping the sun god, or the sun, or the solar disk. But worship was, I don't know how many times it was mentioned throughout the book, but not that. Every book written on Egyptology, that they were worshiping the sun god. So I'm going to just tell you what I saw. They're not worshiping. They were never worshiping. That wasn't what was going on. These were very sophisticated people that left behind these glyphs for us. These weren't primitives. And what happened is, in the mind of our modern archaeologists and historians, these people were perceived as primitives. So they assumed this was boiled down to something as simple as worshiping a sun disk. That wasn't what was going on. What I saw was what happens to me and many of you in meditation. You'll even see. When you go into deep meditation, you might find your hands just floating up into this position like this. All that was happening, which is stunning and changes the notion of worship, was they were exchanging energies with whatever was before them. This was either receiving or giving energy to what was before them, not worshiping and giving away their power to it. Then I suddenly flashed back from a couple of decades ago, talking again with the main person in my soul group, who said, remember, never worship anyone. This is not correct. This is not the right use of energy. When you worship, and they said, including us, your soul group, don't do that. When you worship, you give your authority and energy away to another. And so worship, they said, is incorrect. They said, give your love, gratitude, appreciation, all these things are great, but not worship. Do not give your power away. And so that suddenly trickled in from the past. And I thought, yes, remember, this particular temple was finished only a couple thousand years ago. It was begun far before that. But that went into the Greek and Roman times, where religion that we are entwined with today was being foisted upon humanity. And it was based on this, upon worship. It wasn't about worship. It was never supposed to be. And now we go to church on Sundays and worship. And then we pay our penance, or we pay it forward, whatever you want to call it, when the basket comes around to keep the church open. And we start, essentially thanking our pastor, our priest, our minister for being there for us as a translator, because we're too dumb to go directly to the source. So we have to go through someone who can interpret it for us, share it with us, explain it to us. And that includes all the gurus out there. The fact is, it's really simple. And I've been talking about it for a while. In fact, my very first commentary with the Gaia is on the subject of manifestation. I think it's the first one, if not, it's the second one. And I start touching into these topics a bit. But in reading this book and looking at all of the glyphs, everything became so clear to me. All of the names of these gods and goddesses, the pharaohs, all collapse back down to the sun. They're all representations of Horus, all the pharaohs, the pharaonic names, all of them have hail back to Horus, the essentially son of the sun. The rest of the characters in the stories that are embedded in Dendera and all these other temples, all throughout the history books on Egypt, if you start looking into them, oftentimes one of them is conflated with another, but it keeps coming back to the same thing, which is what I saw and what I learned years ago. And I think I kind of figured out a long time ago, at least a decade ago. The one thing is it is nothing but mind, nothing but thought, nothing but desire and will applied to it in the case where people have the will to do it. There is nothing else. As above, so below. It all comes back to Isis and Osiris, which represent the logos. Osiris is the logos, the thought, the word. And then you have Isis, which is the field of chaos and fertility. The field. The field can be imprinted any way we want that field imprinted. It's lying right there in all of the glyphs, pointing us back to, please understand and take control that this is all within you. It is all just desire, thought, and the impregnation of this into the field that ultimately, if you have enough repetition of thought or will, this coalesces into your physical reality. A lot of people don't like to hear that because they don't like the reality they're in. All of us have been through trial and tribulation. We've been through, I would argue, many, many lifetimes. This one might seem like it's a cakewalk, but the last one wasn't, and the next one probably won't be. There are lifetimes of rest. Okay. But mostly we're learning, and that doesn't have to be ugly. And part of the reason is buried in the Dendera temple as well. We want to go against the cycles that are presenting themselves to us. Sometimes when it's daylight, we need to wake up and get things done. And I mean on a spirit level. Examine things, look at things, become active, take action. And then there are times to let it rest. When the dark comes at night, go to sleep. They call that the underworld. It's where we leave our body. It's where we go out and practice with others in our dream time, practice scenarios of the future coming up. So ultimately, all of this, as above, so below, Nut and Geb, Osiris and Isis, all comes back to essentially they always credit the male, which, and people have a problem with this. I don't. It's all, this whole thing is about divine complements in the process of creativity. So you have the male thought, logos, you have the female field that makes everything come into fruition, the prima materia. It looks like a chaotic field of random atoms waiting to be programmed. And the problem is we've been letting other people program this field for thousands of years. That was already going on when this was laid down. The Egyptians were fully aware of it. They knew this time would come where we would rediscover all of this. And they're saying, take back your mind, take back your creativity. Acknowledge when the cycle of light is here and when the cycle of rest or dark or nighttime is here. Acknowledge these. Don't go against these cycles, and then put yourself in the rhythm with nature, the rhythm with the cosmos, which is fascinating because they have it documented down to the hour. They have glyphs for every hour of every day, right out to the great cycle. So they understood time, they understood co-creation, and I'm just saying, to me, it always collapses back to the one thing. I'll speak further about it in the future because that's a chunk. It's all about you. Everything you see in front of you, everything you touch, taste, smell, all of it is you. It's all your creation. You created the circumstance to be there in the first place. You're this incredible soul with these incredible creative capacities. And that's what the Egyptians were leaving behind for us. They knew what we were up against. You now know. Anybody watching this understands. Every channeler that I have spoken to, I don't care who it is, and this is included in my book with Lee Harris, The Future Human, including my own guides from 40 years ago, 30 years ago, probably more likely, I start asking those questions. Yes, there are forces that are trying to essentially quiet you down, that are essentially trying to keep you from your full capacity of creation. And what every channeler says is once you let the human spirit free, once we understand, and don't complain that we got a tough lot in life. That's another thing we can look at later. We can go into how we contend with that. If you feel that this was a tough lot in life, bad things happen. Okay. So we got to look at how we start unpacking, unwinding, and working with that so we can go back into our true creative power. Because in the end, you don't have anything else. No one's going to save you. No one's going to save me. No one's going to save us. It's all about the incredible human capacity to create. And the creation happens through complements, beautiful, divine complements of thought, feeling, desire, and the field to imprint it upon coming together to be the creation that you're seeing in front of you. And that's the entire universe in every dimension. Every being in every dimension is the same process. Whatever, whomever the great, great creators are that created a rose, a planet, a cosmos, a solar system, it's the same thing. Okay? So it was a wonderful epiphany to finally get, when I finally got, oh my God, all of these entities are collapsing back into the same message over and over. And one could argue, no, this one, the bull does this, and this is this. But when you start expanding out on it, you'll see it comes back to the same thing, day and night, death and rebirth, co-creation through complements. That's it. That's the universe. That's you. That's the world. So how do we want to co-create it? We know that we have forces that are trying to hold us into a patriarchal and authoritarian pattern of leadership where we worship, where we give away our power, where we make compromises. That's not who we are as a soul. And we were lucky enough to be born into the times where this information is now coming back to us. Most of this, it is back to the future. The knowledge is already embedded in you as a soul, but maybe you're not taking full advantage of it. Maybe you're not recognizing your true power and saying, yeah, but I've got a boss, I've got a husband, I've got all these kids, and how do I just feel me? Well, that's the interesting journey. I'll be talking more about it. I just wanted to lay this out because when it all came through, I have to tell you, normally when the energy of my beings and such come in, it comes down to about here. I feel it. And sometimes it'll come down to the heart and feel like champagne bubbles. This went all the way down my spine to the first chakra and just, this is the truth. It's all about you, me. It's all about our creation. So we have to now start taking responsibility for our thoughts and feelings hugely. And you've heard many, many, many people talk about the split. We're in the split. That's true. We're in the division now. You want to hold on to regrets? Don't bother. There's no time for it. You want to hold on to, anger, blame, shame. Don't bother. There's no time for it anymore. You just get to choose what comes from this moment forward. Where are you going to put your feelings and thoughts? Because the collective of individuals that do this are going to all go together, and we're all coming to a very beautiful place because we're not being held back by those lower frequencies of those lower emotions. So I say, you have a choice right now, this very minute. If you choose to let go of the blame or the shame or whatever, just let go of it. And start thinking, how do I want to feel? That's the beginning of your co-creation. And it doesn't mean you might not need a little bit of therapy. And again, I can talk you through a bit of it in terms of how we deconstruct things, because it's really about addressing and asking questions. It's not about feeling shameful or blaming someone else. That's being a victim. That's the worst. That is the most disempowered position. No one here is a victim. Doesn't matter your circumstance. It's just a a glimmer of time in the snapshot of your soul's journey. Just remember that. So if we can pick it up a notch, and the next time you're getting ready to get angry and blame someone, think, well, how would I like to use this energy in a much more juicy, creative way? What do I want to feel? That's just a beginning point. The game is up to you. What your life feels like and shows up as is up to you. And that is not to discount. You are being manipulated through media, energetically, various institutions and systems. We are being manipulated and used. And we can play that game for a little while longer if we have to. We all have bank accounts. We got to play that system a bit, but we don't have to play it all the way anymore. And some people are even getting rid of that. So decide where you want to unplug from the game, especially from the media. Very manipulative. So yeah, all media, very manipulative, very, very hard to find something that is not trying to manipulate you away from your power into a divisive thought or into a thought where you give your power to something, some object or someone. Just don't do it. That's my message for today. My little epiphany, which is the worship started with those glyphs. That was not worship. That was giving and receiving energy to the thing that was in front of them with intention. That's how it should have always been. We should have never been told to worship, and we've all been told to worship. So done with that. This is our game. As it was said in the 4 agreements, this is our canvas. Let's paint it the way we want. So we just have to start unpacking some stuff. I'll share some more on that in the future with you. Okay, go and have a lovely, creative day. If you like this content, please feel free to help by donating to Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Helps keep the lights on, the pieces edited, social media rolling, etc. for my wonderful little crew. In addition, you can sign up for my newsletter. That'll give you access to a download of this amazing human origin story that you've likely never heard before. I think you're going to love it. Thank you.